Hey, this is Pastor Curry, pastor of the E. Zion Fair Baptist Church, Wilmington's most exciting church, the church that love ya and anything you can do about it. I'm excited today, and many of you are saying, well, he's always excited every week he comes on, but I'm especially excited today because we're going to get an opportunity to interview the legendary Twin B. Brown. This brother has certainly been a blessing to the Wilmington, Delaware community for years and years and years. And he personally have blessed our lives here in Wilmington. While I was first starting out as a pastor, it was he who put me on the air. And ever since then, I've had a show, at least one, but now we're doing several things on Channel 28. So I'm looking forward to interviewing him. I want you to call somebody, let them know that Coffee with Curry is on, and let's get after it.
Over 70 years as a contributor to Black history, beginning at the age of 8 in Daytona Beach, Florida. Along with his education, he was one of the youngest African-American radio disc jockeys in Central Florida. His career led him to WDAS Radio in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and from there to WILM in Wilmington, Delaware. Some of his contributions as community leader are as follows. The originator of Lease Access TV, you now enjoy on Channel 28 TV. He organized the first TULAPA Lease Access Producers Association over 35 years ago to save live programming. The godfather of the annual turkey giveaway and holiday dinners for the seniors and the less fortunate. One of the founding members of the Indenominational Action Council of Delaware. The founder of the free hands-on video production workshops, and served as the Director of Communications for Wilmington's first African-American mayor. For 30 years, he encouraged the need for educational public access TV channel, which exists on Comcast Channel 965.
We're back. It is a joy, it is a privilege to have with us the one, the only, the originator, Reverend Dr. Twin B. Brown. What a great joy to have you with us.
It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. I often make mention about E. Zion Fair. I said, ever since I introduced you to television, you've been moving ever since.
And I tell you, you did. You told me I need to be on TV, and I couldn't even fathom making that happen. But you said it can happen, and you gave me 30 minutes to do whatever I was going to do.
Yes.
And for 4 or 5 years straight, you made sure I was on the air every week.
Absolutely.
And matter of fact, on behalf of the E. Zion Fair family, we want to say thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Twin, it's just a pleasure for me to have you here today. I've watched even the Revival Hour as it has returned. Yeah. And you're doing some marvelous work. You've always done marvelous work. But before I get into the marvelous work that you do, I want to talk a little bit about Twin B. I want to talk about how he was formed, because you have such excellence and you have done so much in the time that God has given you, that I just want to talk a little bit about you. So Daytona Beach is where you were born, but tell me a little bit about your rearing.
Well, in Daytona Beach, I was raised by my grandmother. Okay. I was born when my mother was 15 years old. Okay. And in those days, you didn't have to go to any court or anything. The parents just take you over when the person have a kid while they're young. So I didn't know who my mother was until I was 15 years old. Oh, okay. I lived in the same house with my mother, but my grandmother was in charge of me. So I thought my mother was my older sister until we got 15 years old. So they called the family together, and they decided it was about time to let me know who my mother was. I watched my mother get beatings when she come in late at night, too late at night, and I used to feel sorry for her because she couldn't stay out till it. My grandmother was very strict. Right. She was the mother of the church. So, but I was always interested in the medium, even from a young age. Okay. But how I got into being one of the youngest entrepreneurs in my community was back there they didn't have the shopping centers. Okay. They had the corner store. Right. So in order for a lot of our seniors to get their food, they sometimes had to walk 4 blocks and get their food and then walk back home. So after I would do my chores on Saturday, I would be in the yard playing with my uncle. I was raised with my uncle. And I see the seniors carrying the groceries, so I would go out and help them with the groceries. And maybe they give me a quarter, 50 cents or something like that.
In those days,
that was
yeah.
money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I may end up with $3.
Oh wow!
But it didn't cost you but a dime to go to the movies and all that. So, but from that, I decided I would make a business out of that. So I got about 10 seniors to let me do their shopping on a regular basis. At that time, all you had to do is take a note from them, go to the store, get the food, sign for it, and bring it back home. Okay. So that would keep the seniors from walking. So I made a business out of that. But I got interested in.
Well, before you jump to where you're ready to go, that speaks to Twin B, because before Uber became real, you were doing what Uber is doing now, and that is you were able to go and be a private shopper for someone. That's excellent.
Yes, but I was in the church. I was always in the church, yeah. And I would get up on Sunday morning, and I had to walk 4 miles to the radio station. So I asked the disc jockey, could I come down to the radio station and just sit in before I go to church in the morning? So I walked 4 miles to the radio station, sit in with him, and then walk 4 miles back home, and then my church was 4 miles the other way. Oh, wow. So I would do that on Sunday morning. Eventually, he started letting me do different things at the radio station. Okay. You know, they had the old 45s and 78 records and all that. So I would clean the records, and he let me start spinning the records. So after about 4 or 5 years, I was in 10th grade in high school then. And about a couple of years passed. He lived in Melvin, Florida, which was about 60 miles from Daytona. So he would have to come from Melvin to Daytona, and I would meet him at the station. He had an accident, and he couldn't come to the station. Well, I had been going there so long, I had a key because I would meet him there sometime in the morning and clean up and all of that. So the owner called and said, they called me Benny. He said, Benny, Tommy can't get here today. He had an accident. I guess you just have to lock up and go home. Well, that was about 6 o'clock in the morning and all that. He said, it's a shame we have to lock up. I said, well, you really don't have to lock up. He said, well, what can you do? I said, I've been doing everything but talking for the last couple of years. Right. So he called his wife. He said, honey, did you know Benny been doing everything with talking? She said, no, I didn't know that. So they said, I said, well, I got one problem. He said, what is the problem? I said, I can't play the hillbilly music. Okay. He said, well, what you gonna do? You don't have the music. I said, well, I have my music. I said, I've been preparing for this day. I'm sorry it happened this way, but I've been preparing for this day for a long time. Wow. So he let me go on there for 30 minutes. Said, okay. We're gonna listen. They was in Cocoa Beach, Florida. They lived in Cocoa Beach, Florida. So they said, we're gonna listen for 30 minutes, and if we don't like what we hear, you can just lock up and make an announcement, and we go off the air. So I got on there. I was the gospel king. I had my name and everything. So I got on the air, and he called me and said, well, do another 30 minutes. So I did another 30 minutes. From that point on, I had my own program. They gave me an hour program. Wow. I was that was 10th grade then in school. Wow. So I started disc jockeying in Daytona Beach in 10th grade.
Yeah, it was something you said that I want to make sure that our young people who are listening and watching our show today heard. You had been preparing before the opportunity had arrived. Yes. That is so critical. That is so critical because all too often we wait for the opportunity to arrive, yes, and then we start preparing. But to be in a position where all you were doing was cleaning the album, the 45s and the 78s, and you were cleaning around the station, you were still preparing yourself. Absolutely. Because this is what faith really is. Faith is being able to speak or live in something that you're not there yet, but when you have arrived, you will know you got there. That's awesome.
And then sometime I would go down at night, and if I got to clean up the place and all that, I would go down at night in the sub studio and I would practice, you know. I wasn't on the air, but I would practice, and we would tape in the reel, tape it in, play back and see how. So I had my thing together. I was really ready for that morning. But the owners didn't know that I've been doing all that. Right. They thought I was just sitting in the studio there with the disc jockey and all that. So I was prepared for it.
Excellent. That's excellent. And when that moment had arrived, you said you were reared by your grandmother.
Yes.
Your mother was in the home as well. Tell me a little bit about what happened between there and getting to Delaware, or was there a stop in between?
Well, let's go back to the radio station. After I was on the air for a little while, then I was able to convince them to change the station from the hillbilly format to all African American format.
Oh, okay, trendsetter.
ELE and Daytona Beach is now it's all African American programming. So I went through college, Bethune-Cookman College.
Oh, excellent.
And for those 4 years, I was a disc jockey there. And 2 years vocational school. I did TV repair before I got into video.
Okay.
I was disc jockeying, and then I went into TV repair, even when I came to NOAA. Now, I was a part of the Broadcasting Association.
Okay.
And I was one of the youngest ones in there. I met Bishop Louise Williams, all up from Philadelphia and all that. And an opening came at DAS in Philadelphia. Okay. And I wanted to leave Florida. I had been in Florida all my life and all that, so it was an opportunity. So they wanted an African American who had their records and prepared. So I came to Philadelphia and auditioned, and I got the job. Okay. So when I left Florida, I went to DAS in Philadelphia.
Okay, good. That's my hometown.
Okay. I was there for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
The Hawkins, who owned WILM, was looking for a disc jockey who had their own records to do gospel here in Wilmington. So I had started coming to Wilmington because I had met a young lady in Wilmington.
Right.
So I was coming to Wilmington. So I applied for the job, and I got the job in Wilmington. They paid me twice as much as I was making at DEI.
Really?
So I came to Wilmington. I was at WILM for about 5.5 years when cable came into existence.
Wow, okay.
John Rollins, the millionaire, started the cable in Wilmington, Newcastle County. One of the first cable companies in the United States started here in Wilmington, Newcastle County. We started cable here before they started in Philly. So he could not get African Americans to buy cable.
Right.
So he came to the station, he and his wife, and sit there half of the day Sunday, wait until I got off the air, and made me the offer and paid me more than twice as much as I was making at WILM.
Wow, you've been
so I let the young lady who was training under me take the job, and I went to work for Rollins Cable Company, getting African Americans to buy cable.
Yeah. Now, before you go any further, I'm going to take a break because I want to come back because that's an interesting twist and how you left Daytona Beach, went to Philadelphia, one of the most popular, still strong radio stations in Philadelphia, WDAS, came to Wilmington, and it was interesting to see that Wilmington was even paying more money, and then you transitioned into cable TV, and you were a catalyst to help African Americans to even be a part of that. So let's talk about that when we come back. We'll be right back.
What's up? I never yielded. And as you can see, I am not dead.
Representation matters.
Get out! Yo! Yo, chill, man. Get out! Chill.
We hear it all the time, but what does it really mean or look like? In an ad campaign, Netflix says when it comes to Black leading actors, directors, writers, and producers, they are representing. And it's not a moment, it's a movement. Famous directors Ava DuVernay and Spike Lee helped introduce the streaming services initiative called Strong Black Lead.
We're not a genre because there's no one way to be black.
It's a promise to represent black audiences authentically, which hasn't always been Hollywood's priority.
Mammy, here's for Scarlett's Vickles. You can take that all back to the kitchen. I won't need to buy it.
Oh, yes, you is. You's going to eat every mouthful of this.
Early pictures of black people in entertainment included criminals, slaves, nannies, servants, blackface, or just plain ignorance. But from the mid-1910s to the 1930s, Duke University says some film companies had a sort of revelation, if you will. They dedicated themselves to creating productions with, quote, all-colored casts. They promised to write positive, diverse roles. After many black people moved from the South to urban areas, Hollywood seemed to be adjusting to the country's changes. In fact, what was called the race movie genre only displayed black people in a positive light. But eventually, the idea of black people in those roles was no longer marketable. Duke says an all-black production company failed because of the lack of commercial appeal to broader, aka white, audiences.
There are a lot of people who live in your neighborhood who choose not to get on that bus. What do they choose to do? They choose to go out and sell drugs. They choose to go out and kill people. They choose to do a lot of other things, but they choose not to get on that bus.
Commercial appeal like the infamous white savior complex. Teen Vogue defining it as movies that promote colonialism in a sense, because people of color need white people to save them. They called it Oscar bait, which brings me to my next point.
But I think it sucks that if black people want Academy Awards, we can't just make movies about anything but slavery.
No. We can make any movie we want. We just have to trick white people into thinking the movie is about slavery.
Cue the hashtag #OscarsSoWhite in 2016. For the second year in a row, USA Today reported all 20 actors nominated for a lead or supporting acting Oscar, they were white. And black actors weren't having it.
We no longer need to ask to be invited anywhere.
Some boycotted the award show and demanded change. The Academy promised to diversify in race and gender by 2020. We can't talk about representation without taking a trip to Wakanda. Black Panther was proof diversity sells. Forbes said it made $700 million nationally, more than $1 billion worldwide. It seems Black Hollywood is hopeful Netflix can represent for black people alongside other big dogs in the industry working to do the same. So let's hope this trend can and will eventually turn into a way of life.
Let everybody know, and suckers be warned, that this is the outcome when you mess with Bullhorn.
And we're back. Well, it has been amazing with the time that I'm spending with Twin B, and I feel really blessed and favored to have him here and grace us on this Coffee with Curry. When we ended the last segment, you were talking about the transition to cable. A lot of successes happened in there. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, they tried several different ways to get African Americans to buy cable. It wasn't but $2 something a month.
Wow.
But to the average African American family then, that was just another added bill to their monthly bills. Right. So they couldn't get them to buy cable. So when he hired me, I had a problem the first 2 years. I thought I was going to lose my job. I thought I was going to have to end up back in Florida. But I got them to give me an hour on TV. I told them to let me have an hour program on TV and to make all of the local announcements for all of the churches free of charge.
Oh, wow.
So that's how the least, it was public access when we started because you didn't have to pay.
Right.
When I first started the TV program, if you came to me and said, I got an idea for a TV program and I talked with you about it and I felt it was something good, I would give you 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And you would go on.
Yeah.
And that's how the station started.
Right.
So for 8 years, I worked along with John Raleigh's nephew, and we ran the station for 8 years. Eventually, people started subscribing to cable.
Okay.
Now here's a component in that. When I first went on the air, although I was making announcements and I was playing for 45s and all of that, a few of them, there wasn't that many out then. You had Mahalia Jackson and a few of them back there in that time. So I had gotten familiar with the choirs in Philadelphia when I was in Philadelphia. So I could not get the local choirs to sing on the TV program because they called me the jitterbug from Florida, trying to make the white man richer.
Oh, wow.
So I went through with that for a long time. So I started bringing the big choirs in from Philadelphia and all. So it gradually, they started mixing it in and people started going to each other's home. And so after about 15 years, it built up and people started subscribing and all of that. And businesses came on and started sponsoring programming. That's when we changed from public access to lease access. It got so crowded, they decided to let people buy their own time. So that made it lease access.
Okay. So now, speaking of that, because you have found so many things, and that's one of the questions I wanted to ask, and I never got a chance to ask. Who were some of the people, I heard you talk about Mr. Riley, but who were some of the other people who helped you to start the lease access part, the LAPA part of that?
Well, the LAPA part came about when the LAPA came in and they started selling the time. Then what I did, I had the opportunity to work part-time for Rollins and then also by the time. So I bought up the Sunday time. From the beginning, and resold it to other people. So that's when I got the Congos came on. So Sammy them came on. Sammy and Cherry came to me. Now, I was repairing TVs then. I wasn't in the video business. I repaired TVs for 11 years. Out on Market Street here. So Sammy and Cherry came to me when they first went into business. They said they didn't have any money, but they wanted some advertisement. So I put them on the air, started them on the air, came up with a slogan: if you got to go, go the Congo way. Now, Cherry did not like that. She'll tell you today, she did not like it. But I guess when the business started coming in, then she left it alone, and they went on and grew from that point on. But they was with me from the very beginning. I'm the one who started the Congo Hour for them and all of that. So it was very interesting. The first black mayor did voter registration and all of that.
You've done a whole lot, Twin, and I tend to feel bad a lot of times when people wait until people transition to give them their flowers. And honestly, when I came here, I heard you talk about, that there are people who kind of criticize the fact that you were from Miami and you trying to make the white man rich and things of that nature. There's always been an interesting cultural spin here in Delaware. I had just come from Philadelphia, a younger pastor, my first time pastoring, and I remember meeting you, and you had shared that when you first came to Delaware, one of the first churches you were a part of was the Zion Fair, and you said that I needed to be on the air. And I said, that was a part of my vision. I wanted to be on the air, but not now. I wanted to wait until after the church have grown and until we've had some success. And you said, no, this is the time. And I never will forget, you gave me, my time was from 8 to 8:30. And it was in 2007. I was still a fresh pastor, still trying to learn how to preach. And I'm still trying to learn how to preach. But I was just starting out, and that was, when I go to Philadelphia and talk to my colleagues in Philly, the pastors that I know in Philadelphia, I tell them I got my start with a country preacher from Daytona, Florida, who said, you can do it. And today we're still there. Matter of fact, we will move from 30 minutes to now we have 2 hours worth of broadcast. And I'm just grateful to God. So I wanted to say that to you today. Thank you for believing in us at East Zion Fair. Thank you for believing in me, because it made it right.
Well, I was saying to your crew here before you came in, when the march from 13th and French here, I had my workshop kids, and they videotaped the march and came here around here. So I've always felt a part of East Zion Fair.
But not only that, but you had your children here when we opened up our new Wellness Center. And I remember that. As a matter of fact, we used your video because we just celebrated our 100th anniversary. And a part of the move from over there to here was that video that you had produced. We are grateful. We're very grateful for what you've done. And what I hope and trust is that you will continue to live a long time. Because Twin, you're not 20 anymore.
No, I'm not.
But you're still moving, you're still shaking, still making that stuff happen.
The Lord is continuing to bless me. I live in Ingleside Apartments, and most of the people there are either in wheelchairs or walkers and all of that, and it gives me inspiration every time that I can walk in there and drive up and park my car and go in there and all that. You know, it makes me realize how God continues to bless me, and when Ivan came to me by coming back on to do the program, I really love the spirit of him and his wife. He's always admired what I've done. While he was learning video production, I watched your Sunday on the air. While he was learning video production, I watched him, how he was scuffling and all of that, and gave him support wherever I could give him support. So I was very proud of him, and he asked me to come back on to do the spiritual revival hour because the format had changed on Sunday and they wasn't doing a lot of the gospel. So I prayed about it, and the Lord, I thought about I'm able physically to do it. The Lord wasn't through me yet, but but I often think about the first time you came on there, you and Justin came on the program, and I saw that in you then. I saw a movement. I've dealt with so many people in my life, and the 70+ years between Florida and here, got 70+ years and promotion in radio and TV. So God has continued to bless me.
You know, as you're speaking, I'm thinking how you are living on divine credit. The Bible teaches us that, only what you do for Christ, it teaches us to seek first the kingdom of God. That's really where I want to say. And you have done that. You have enriched the lives of so many people. And that was you putting in the bank for this day, to be your age and still able to do all you do. It's because God is saying this is what you're supposed to bless people. And you have been doing that. That's why, I'm glad that you were able to accept to come on the show, because Lapa could not be and could not have been what it was or is without you.
Well, once, how the Lapa started was that once they started making money, the station started making money, then Rollins had got it was Comcast then. They changed from Rollins to 2 or 3 different other companies, but Comcast ended up buying them out. And they was making money, but they got to the point where it wasn't benefiting them to have the program on the air. The average person had cable and all that. So they made an attempt to take it off. So that's when I had to organize the community behind it and all that. That's how the first Lapa started.
Right.
Okay, we got that straightened out and started again. Then they made another attempt to close it down. Well, I was still working part-time for the cable company, and I had my own program and all of this. So I had to get people together to fight it. I think our last meeting for the last Lapa was organized right here. Remember, we had the meeting here, right here at the church. That was the last Lapa when they went up on the insurance so high that people couldn't pay the insurance. So we had to bring people back together where the insurance would be compatible for them to play. So it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle, but it's rewarding now because it's benefiting the community.
Right. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back because I want to now talk a little bit about what's going on with the new media, what new forms. You are the trendsetter, the trailblazer, the torch bearer for audio and visual, as we can look at it. But there's a new shift in the media and the form, and I just want to get your thoughts on how you think about it. So we'll be right back.
Welcome back. In this Black Excellence presentation, we will highlight 10 Black directors that innovated film in the past decade.
Welcome to blackexcellence.com, the site where we share Black excellence, opulence, and affluence. Our mission is to inspire you as we enlighten you.
As we are well on our way into a new decade, we want to shine a spotlight on Black directors who were able to make their marks in Hollywood in the past decade. We celebrate their success as well as their creativity and multi-million-dollar budgets in making films that uplifted, entertained, and pushed the limits of imagination of the African American community. Through all of the adversities that these Black directors face daily in Hollywood, we will highlight their critically acclaimed films that have been able to move the culture over the past 10 years. In this original Black Excellence video, we will be featuring the top 10 Black directors of the past decade. So without further ado, let's get started. Number 1. Tim Story, director of Think Like a Man and Ride Along. Story is probably by quantity the most successful Black filmmaker when you throw in the Fantastic Fours from the previous decade to his successful run with the Think Like a Man and Ride Along franchises. One can say he's a chameleon filmmaker who shows his versatility, whether it's action-packed or comedy-driven. Story is the highest-grossing African-American director in the world, with his 7 feature films grossing over $1 billion in revenue. He is the only African-American director to have 6 films debut at number 1 at the box office during opening weekend. Number 2. Antoine Fuqua, director of The Equalizer, Southpaw, The Magnificent Seven, and Olympus Has Fallen. Fuqua is an American film director known for his work in the film Training Day, as well as Tears of the Sun and Brooklyn's Finest. Fuqua has been a powerhouse filmmaker in the past decade with action-packed films like The Equalizer, where he paired up again with Denzel Washington. Having done Southpaw and The Magnificent Seven remake to critical and financial success, let's not forget that his direction of Olympus Has Fallen sparked 2 more sequels. Number 3. Ryan Coogler, director of Fruitvale Station, Creed, and Black Panther. Coogler has emerged as the most prominent director with just 3 films. With Fruitvale Station, he won the top audience and grand jury awards in the U.S. dramatic competition at the 2013 Sundance Film Festival. He then co-wrote and directed the 7th film in the Rocky series, Creed, which grossed nearly $175 million worldwide. His Marvel movie adaptation of King T'Challa and the fictional African nation of Wakanda was a cultural phenomenon and an international blockbuster. Black Panther became the highest-grossing solo superhero launch of all time, the highest-grossing film by a Black director, and the highest-grossing film starring a primarily Black cast. Number 4. Jordan Peele, director of Get Out, Us, and The Twilight Zone. Jordan Peele wrote and directed the Oscar-winning Get Out, a horror movie about racism that became a breakout hit and the most profitable film of 2017. He delivered another well-received fright flick with his horror film Us in 2019 and has been involved in the production of TV shows like The OG and a reboot of The Twilight Zone. Earlier in his career, Peele was known for his work on Mad TV and for co-creating the hit Comedy Central show Key and Peele. Number 5. Steve McQueen, director of Shame, 12 Years a Slave, and Widows. McQueen has directed 3 outstanding films in this past decade, but it was 12 Years a Slave that made him the first Black director to have a film win Best Picture. McQueen makes gritty stories that are very in your face and very revealing in the character study. The public can see the soul of the character through the eyes of his lead actors and actresses. Number 6. Barry Jenkins, director of Medicine for Melancholy, Moonlight, and If Beale Street Could Talk. It had been over a decade when Jenkins had released his first film, Medicine for Melancholy, to critical acclaim. There was great anticipation for his next film, Moonlight, and when it came out in 2016, it not only captured everyone's attention, but went on to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. This was the first time a film with an all-Black cast took such an honor, and he also won an original screenplay Oscar. His next film, If Beale Street Could Talk, also garnered critical acclaim. Number 7. Malcolm Lee, director of Best Man Holiday, Girls Trip, and Night School. Having worked over 15 years in the business, Lee finally gave us the sequel to his film debut, Best Man, with Best Man Holiday, and it proved well at the box office. He then followed up and hit a home run with Girls Trip, which is one of the funniest black films of the decade, and introduced us to rising star Tiffany Haddish. Lee then successfully paired the rising star in Haddish with superstar Kevin Hart in the box office hit Night School. Number 8. Tyler Perry, director of Medea's Big Happy Family, Medea's Witness Protection, and Acrimony. When the decade started, there was no consistent director making films and bringing in box office receipts other than Tyler Perry. Love them or hate them, his films brought in an audience that no box office expert had seen before. Led by his signature character Medea, folks couldn't get enough laughs. He's one of the few directors who also writes and produces his projects, which brings in average gross earnings of at least $60 million and generates a 2-to-1 return on his investment. Number 9. Ava DuVernay, director of Middle of Nowhere, Selma, 13th, and When They See Us. In this decade, DuVernay reinvented herself from film publicist to film director, and she got her big break when she won the directing award in the U.S. Dramatic Competition at the 2012 Sundance Film Festival for her second feature film, Middle of Nowhere, becoming the first black woman to win the award. Her second film, Selma, garnered her a Golden Globe nomination for Best Director. Not to mention, she also became the first black female director to have her film nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture. In 2017, she was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature for her film 13th. In 2018, her film A Wrinkle in Time grossed over $100 million at the box office, making her the first black female director to have that distinction. Her incredible talent as a director was put on full display with her Netflix miniseries When They See Us, where she masterfully depicted the excruciating toll that persecution and incarceration had on the teenage boys known as the Central Park Five. Number 10. F. Gary Gray, director of Straight Outta Compton, Fate of the Furious, and Men in Black International. F. Gary Gray had been relatively quiet in the beginning of the decade until he came back to the director's chair with the NWA film Straight Outta Compton in 2015. Featuring mostly newcomers as part of the cast, it stood atop at the box office for 4 straight weeks, grossing over $160 million. Gray then went to direct the 8th installment of the Fast and the Furious franchise, The Fate of the Furious, in 2017. With a total gross of $1.2 billion, it became the 18th highest grossing film of all time. With his last film being 2019's Men in Black International, Gray is one of the few black directors getting films with a $100 million plus budget.
And we're back. Listen, it has been a joy once again for us to have Brother Reverend Dr. Twin B. Brown with us. I do a lot of comments of trendsetter, torchbearer, and this gentleman has certainly been that. Oftentimes we don't give people their credit while they're still around, but I wanted to make sure today that while we are talking about the trajectory of his life, that we had an opportunity to see that he was brought up through humble beginnings. But he had a zest, a zeal to do for the young people who are watching us, for the young people who are interested in making life meaningful. It's about giving. As a matter of fact, I'm in the midst of a series right now about time winding up. And when you give, God will give back to you, because at the end of the day, he's a true living witness to when you give and pour into other people, it will pay off, especially during your latter days. Well, Twin, there is another whole thing I want to talk about now. This new media, this new approach, we are dealing with the millennials now, and they are high tech, high speed, high everything.
Yes.
And what are your thoughts on this new wave that's happening right now?
Well, it was past due.
Okay.
I remember before I disconnected myself from the Lapa group and retired and all that. My last conversation with them in the meeting told them that I had to change their ways of doing things. The technology has taken so many different courses. It used to be a time when you bought a car, you would keep it for 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Later. Now you have to almost change every year to keep up with it. Well, that's the same thing with technology. Yeah. Things so advanced so that you have to keep up with it. So in order for anybody to really succeed and keep up with technology, the internet got so many branches that will entice you to do and give you an opportunity to do so many things. You can create your own TV channel now on the internet completely and build it up and have your own audience. You got people making big money by their own channel now. Well, back there when I first started, we only had one camera, one chair, duct tape holding the camera up. It was a used camera, had duct tape holding the camera up, the chairs was taped up and all that. And for years, this is something I didn't mention earlier. For years, when we first started the local program, I used to bring my furniture from home every Sunday to the station.
Oh, wow.
We didn't even have furniture in the station. We had one camera, one chair, because the company was in the same building where the TV station was, in Newark, Delaware.
Okay.
So they only thing they was interested in people subscribing to cable. They wasn't particular about the TV station. But for me to continue and get people to subscribe, then I had to come up with an idea to have the station on the air to do the announcements free in the community. That's the only way I was able to get the churches to get involved. But with the new technology now, if you don't keep up with it now, then you're just out of it. And that's why I admire what you're doing here. And every time I come here, it's something different. And I've had a conversation with your staff here, two interesting young people. And I was telling them about my workshop and all of this and all that. So it's just a pleasure, and I want to say this to you. You have always, ever since I met you, been encouragement to me.
Well, bless you.
Wherever I've seen you, whenever I talk with you, you've always been encouragement. Well, and that meant a lot, because there's been some rough days trying to keep the community together, you know, doing what we're going through now, and with the virus and all of this. That's what makes TV now so important.
Okay.
Because it takes the place of loud crowds getting together and all of that. You can do so much stuff.
Yeah, that is so true. And while I was listening to you talk, I kind of thank you. It was the elders of our community, like Bishop Morton, yourself, your good friend Jay Codwell, who is still a member of E. Zion Fair, who I listened to, and even though I had to navigate some of the politics of this city, the truth of the matter is I'm glad that we are still strong, but it's because of individuals like yourself.
Well, it was because of Jay Caldwell. And many times when I was starting the station, Jay was favored down there. Oh, yeah. He had his own program on there. I depend on Jay, and I'd be working. I remember when Jay was having trouble keeping a group together, and he loved to sing them hymns, and I used to tell him all the time, you keep singing them hymns, you'll make it, you know, because there's always a message in those hymns. So we have always worked together. He played a big part in keeping the station going while I was trying to get the groups and the people in Wilmington to see the importance of the station. Yeah. Jay played a big part in supporting me.
Yeah. And do you know when the last time you saw Jay?
No, I used to run into him in the post office every once in a while, but I don't now.
I talk to him on the phone quite often. He doesn't come out as much now that COVID is around, but he's still good. He was, matter of fact, he was on the campus here at the church, bringing his he called it his dues. He's watching, so I know he's going to see this. He don't call it tithing, you know. That's the modern day. But he says he got to make sure his dues are paid here at the church. But he was just here just yesterday, and Jay is looking good. He's strong. I often joke with Jay. I said, you know, you have to stay strong. You have to stay looking good because you married a very young lady.
Jay have supported this community. I can't even talk about it. You know, people have called on me to get Jay for funerals and all that. He's always done that. And he's been support to this community. Jay have sung for different groups and helped raise money and all of that. And he and I, there's no room between me and Jay. You know, I take hats off to him because when I was struggling, Jay was always there.
That's right.
He was always
that's
there.
Who he is.
Always there. That's him.
That's right.
That's him. So it's just a blessing to be able to sit here with you and talk with you and see the progress that you made here. You know, when I came to town, East Iron Fair, 13th and French.
That's right.
I used to be there, Reverend Henry and all of them. And when that day when I had my crew, and they didn't understand what was going on when we made the march from 13th here. So, you know how young people is until we got over here and saw what was going on over here. And I never forget one of the little boys say, well, this makes a difference.
Yeah, that was a blessed day.
It was.
Yeah, and I'm often thankful to God for that. Twin, as we close out this segment, and again, I don't want people to think that I'm just over thankful for you, but I am. I'm very appreciative for you. And whenever you need East Iron Fair, before I ask you the last question, whatever you need East Iron Fair for, know that we're here for you. Okay? And it's not about lip language. It's about you try us and see. Because whenever, as a pastor, I believe in delivering, and you delivered for us. So in this season of your life, if there's something you need from East Iron Fair, you just call it and it's going to happen. And I'm very grateful that you have come back. I'm very grateful that you are on the air right before my show, listen, this is right after and right before my show, because I know people are going to be watching. So if you got the show, that means they're going to be watching. So we're appreciative, and know whenever you get in your quiet moments and you may feel life is slower than it needs to be, remember this: God has you as a special person in His eye. In the book of Psalms, it talks about he engraved you in the palm of His hand. He's done that for you.
Well, as I said earlier, I was talking to your two staff people here, and when I came in here, I hadn't seen this setup that you have here. So I came in, it was amazing, and to see how they was getting set up. So when they found out who I was, I had the workshop and all of that. You have two beautiful people here, and I'm going to be working with them in certain ways to help them out.
Well, we have already told them that you are the master. As a matter of fact, someone came out of the office who works in our office and said when she was a baby, and I ain't going to tell you she's older, she's old now. She said she was one of the ones who took your workshop too. So you are a pioneer, all right? You're a pioneer, and we thank God for it. Twin, as we close this out, tell us, is there anything you want to share with some young person who is interested in this field of media that may be able to bless their lives?
Well, it's so sad that in so many different ways, I make it a habit now to visit 2 or 3 of the parks during the week. And the reason why I do that, I pass by parks and see sometimes 10 and 12 youth standing around talking with no mask. And I started stopping, getting out, going, talking with them. And people criticize me for doing that. You shouldn't be out there doing this. I said, no, I should be out there. I said, number one, the Lord have blessed me to be in the position to do it. I said, and the reason why I do it, they respect me. Most of those young people have been watching me ever since they were babies. And crawling, but no boy say he used to crawl around on the floor trying to pull up on the television to watch me. And after I talk with them and show them the importance of them living with their parents, living with their grandparents and their aunts and their uncles, they don't own their own apartments and all this. It's disrespectful for you not to wear a mask.
Gotcha.
For you don't know what you would take home to them. So it's unfair. And the parents that call me and say that their children have let them know that I have stopped and talked with them, that's very encouraging to me.
Yes.
That even as I get older, God still got a task for me to perform. And so I get a pledge out of that. And I thank those people like Bishop Morton and Bishop Weeks and all of them who have stuck with me. Nobody can tell you about the struggle but Bishop Morton, because she can talk about when we was in the garage. At one time we was in the garage and had to have one of the heaters that they use, mechanics using, and we go live, turn the heater off, and when the rain comes, she used to put on the boots. She talks about it now, putting on the boots. So she's been with me through the struggle all the way. And when Bishop Weeks first came to town, I don't know if you heard about this, he had a fire burn him out. And we got together and gave him furniture and put him back on his feet. He often talks about that now. That's how I become acquainted with him. So my life has been very enjoyable. You know, trials and tribulations. He didn't promise us every day we're going to be. I have a saying: make the positive outshine the negative in everything you do. And that carried me through school. I had a professor told me, he said, "No, I know you can't keep up with the dentist's sons and preacher's sons and all that you raised by your grandmother, but as long as you keep in mind to make the positive outshine the negative, you will make it."
Amen. What a great opportunity for us to have such wisdom, such knowledge with us today. Again, Brother Twin, Dr. Twin, Reverend Twin, thank you for spending this time with us. And I want to thank all of you. We'll be right back.
I don't think I ever really had the expectation that Hollywood would be a hospitable place for me as an actor. I knew going in that it would be a struggle.
You know, it's sometimes frustrating by the number of roles that just aren't available, and then the ones that are, there's still a stereotype that's there.
I've had meetings with agents or have had managers tell me that agents won't see me because they already have an Asian guy.
In this country and in America, there's a huge pool of really talented Black, Asian, minority ethnic people that just aren't getting recognized.
That even though Latinos make up about 17.4% of the US population, out of 11,000 or more speaking characters surveyed in film and TV, only 5.8% were Hispanic or Latino.
We're not just your gangsters, your mobsters, your drug cartels, or your janitors. We're businessmen, we're lawyers.
It is a white man's world, whether we like it or not.
I spent most of growing up in school trying to shun the Indian in me, and I didn't think it was cool, and you'd get bullied, so anything you could do to try and fit in.
There was a real struggle. There's nothing on television that people could relate to.
Being a person of color, specifically a Black person, and seeing a movie that's going to be a multi-million-dollar film produced by Marvel Disney and will undoubtedly receive praise because it's a multi-million-dollar film full of Black folks, that's invigorating. That's something we haven't actually seen before.
And let me tell you something. The only thing that separates women of color from anyone else is opportunity.
The first time they can really look at a character in a comic book movie and see a reflection of themselves. And I think, you have to be able to see things to believe that you can be them.
I would like to thank the Academy for showing that it can be about the performance and not the politics.
When I look down at this golden statue, may it remind me and every little child that no matter where you're from, your dreams are valid.
You wrote a role for a Black man, like that could only be played by a Black man. And so what I appreciate so much about this thing is that I'm being seen for who I am and being appreciated for who I am. And it makes it that much more difficult to dismiss me.
You cannot win an Emmy for roles that are simply not there.
So we sitting here looking at this dope-ass Black Panther poster, and the conclusion that we have come to is that this is what white people get to feel all the time.
All the time. All the time.
Since the beginning of cinema.
All the time.
You get to feel empowered like this and represented.
this? This is what y'all feel like all the time? I would love this country too.
And we're back. Well, it was a joy. It was a privilege to have Brother Twin be with us today. It is always important to me that we remember the people who have been a blessing in our lives. Sure, we've been given the golden opportunity to interview the congresswoman, the senators. We've done county execs. We've done powerful people, the president of Delaware State. We've done so many wonderful and powerful people. But today, it was heart-feeling to be able to remember and interview an individual who certainly got me started as it relates to the media world. When others would not give me a chance, he did. So I appreciate him, and I wanted to make sure we gave him a spot and an opportunity to share what he wanted to share with us. So I hope and trust that you really enjoyed the show today, and I hope and trust that you will continue to support Brother Twin B and all the endeavors that he has. He's still out there trying to get our young people to do what is right. He talked about that a little bit when he talked about stopping at parks to be able to share with them about the mask and about making sure that they keep that safe distance, because it's not so much what's going to happen to them as much as what's going to happen to those who are older, that they may take something home to them. So thanks for Brother Twin B, and I pray that God blessed you while we had our time of conversation today. Don't forget to always follow us on Instagram, be a part of our Facebook family, and watch us on YouTube. It's so critical. We are doing some wonderful things, and we have a whole lot more to do, but we need you on Facebook. We need you liking those things that you are enjoying, and then respond to us and tell us, hey, I didn't like this. I don't understand this, so that we can get better. That's our goal. Our goal is to transition with this new swing of media. And don't forget about Instagram and YouTube. Again, follow and subscribe and like those things that you do like, and let us know those things that you're concerned about. Until the next time we get together, God bless.
Hi, I'm Ivan Thomas, the Executive Director of the DETV Foundation. And as you have seen for the last year and a half, we've been making some amazing strides in the city of Wilmington and the state of Delaware by our public access television station. The programs that we've been creating with your help, such as Good Morning Wilmington, the Chef Dana Cooking Show, One-on-One with Ivan Thomas, and Homeschool, a segment that comes from DETV Kids. We at DETV work hard to educate, update, and empower the community. We ask you to continue helping by making a gift to support our work, because at DETV, we work for you. Please visit our website today at detvch.com, and in the top right, hit the donate button and give a gift. Any size would be helpful. Thank you so much for your support, and remember, Public Access TV is information and resources that everyone in Delaware can use.
This was made possible in part by viewers just like you. Thank you for your amazing support. For more of our content, please make sure to visit our website at detvch.com.